Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for
Hello.
joining us today. And I don't know if you guys have realized this, but this is going to be our last 30-minute class for this year. So, if you could hear us and see us okay, please type in the chat, "You are amazing." That's super, I don't know, such a wordplay over there, but. So I want to see some "You are amazing" or "This year has been" or "2021 is amazing." Oh my gosh. Um, so yeah,
Why not?
amazing, Susan. Hey, everybody. I got a couple of people already in the chat earlier, so wow, thank you so much, you guys. I let you guys get pumped up in the chat, and while we do that, I just want to remind everybody that we are still doing the 7-day free trial, and we're also live in our new platform. So, if you're a subscriber, go ahead and you could go ahead and watch us there as well. So I'll let Thomas introduce himself shortly. Llamas. Aw, all
Thank
right.
you.
Hello, hello, Ramir. Diane. Hello, Susan. Hello, Robin. Small town girl. All right. Okay, I think we could begin. So,
Mhm.
hello again. My name is Kathleen, and I'll be your studio host. And welcome to our last live 30-minute class with Etchr Studio for this year. And what better way to celebrate your creative journey for 2021 by telling a story about it in brushstrokes? And that's what you will be learning today, drawing for watercolor with Tomás. I'll let him introduce himself. So just a few reminders. I'll keep an eye on the chat. I'll drop lots of links over there. And if you have any questions, just type them in all caps so that we could easily defer them. So Tomás, why not show some of your works and get us started?
Yes, sure. Thank you so much, Kathleen. So, first of all, this is a sketch for to tell the story, the first sketch to tell the story of the New Year's Eve. So, I've come up with some things that we associate with this season, this festive season, and it's quite rewarding to have all these things that bring people together to a nice table in years that were so beyond the normal. So these were different years. These were challenging years. But at the end, we still have the good things to bring people together. And when it comes to sketchbooks, it is about simplifying, about with a simple line, make the contour of the object, to not have fear of sticking to the contours, and then with simple brush strokes to add the light and the shadow. Because as Da Vinci said, an object should fly over the paper, should fly over the surface. And this is a very simple version because as an architect, I've been drawing mostly buildings, of course. This style, I can tell it afterwards, was developed to sketch portraits, which I was not sure about. I was not so confident about. This is about line drawing to tell stories about buildings and the life between buildings, how to confidently draw complex shapes and have fun, of course, in the meantime. And this is everything I will try to talk about in the next mini workshop next month, hopefully. So we have different versions of drawings of buildings, and they all tell a story. It's obviously a challenge to know where to end a composition, because to me, drawing is like a conversation. So we never leave a conversation without saying goodbye. So it's the same thing that happens in sketchbooks. We have to be sure where to end up. So to have a glimpse of the soil, of the environment, and then when we don't know what to do, well, sometimes it's better to finish with some fresh and nice strokes that take advantage of the texture of the paper and let it speak for itself. But well, it's another example of a streetscape. In this case, it is a medieval town with a Mediterranean landscape. We see a cypress tree, for example. We see some bell towers, and it's easy when after some practice to add the shadows to tell that this is the soil, this is a horizontal surface. Then we got the verticals, we got the facades, we got we can play with light and shadow because it's a very easy and effective way to tell a story about buildings. And then, of course, we can talk about perspective, but I would say that sometimes perspective is overrated. So we do not need to know all the aspects of perspective to draw a nice urban landscape, which is seen from afar. So it is about just to know the skyline, know the relation between elements, why this tower stands out this way, what's the relation with the other tower, uh, and to know that these towers are also excellent excuses to finish the drawing. So it stops here, then we have the page. We can play with the 2 pages of the sketchbook, of course, to have a nice distribution of graphic elements. And then, of course, to have a place to sign. Everything is should be thought from the beginning. So, well, I could show many things, many drawings. This is an example of a streetscape using just two colors. We can think about the third one for the sky, and let the ink live for itself and speak for itself, of course. So we have one main point of interest, which is the dome here. We have to know where to place it in a way that it is harmonious and tells a story, of course. And then, yes, all the other elements um, can be added, but without losing the sight for the main element. In the mini workshop, I'll be pleased to tell about the story of a very specific building. In my opinion, one of the best buildings that were ever built. It is the Taj Mahal in India, because it is a building about a story of love, but it also about about how proportion, how light and shadow can be interesting elements that we should take advantage of course, to tell that story. So it will not be difficult, I'm sure, to have that and to draw without knowing everything about perspective, because sometimes the design of the building can speak for itself. So I don't know, Catherine, if we can move on to the practical
Mhm.
example.
I think we could start now. Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to speak to the original plan and to share this way of drawing with simple lines and strokes. And of course, as we could read in this live demo description, to defeat the blank page. So to me, it's like the new year. We don't know for sure what's going to happen, and that's part of the magic. To have these doubts, because it was make us truly creative in a way. So I can show the elements that we have. We have a champagne bottle. We have the pomegranates. These are elements that we really associate with New Year's Eve. So it's very beautiful, isn't it? The shape of it. So we can start with simple lines. The bottle and the pomegranate are not easy shapes because we have a combination of straight lines and curves. So to begin with, we could have a reference point. In this case, the straight lines of the bottle. We could add some auxiliary lines
Hey,
to decompose the bottle in shapes we know. Uh,
Tomasz, can we
Yeah.
do a little favor but move the graphic pens? There you go. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
You're good. Yeah.
So these are the curvy lines. We can see in the bottle shapes that we know quite well. We can see, for example, three squares. And then, yeah, on the first square, the contour lines are straight. The second one has the beginning of the curve. And then the third one has the bottleneck and the screw top, everything. So this is the shape of the bottle. And now we can add the fruit. One pomegranate here with this crown, beautiful crown. The pomegranate needs less introduction because it's about very simple, um, well, spheric shapes. It just needs to be very recognizable so that we have a very first impression of this still life. And then if we are confident about the bottle we have to just sketch, we can add some details. We can add like the labels at different shapes. The main brand, we are not advertising, so we leave it as it is. And now we move on to the first brush strokes. So we have this water brush with liquid watercolor already in it, and it's very helpful to add vivid shapes. In this case, it's important to read the light, and we can begin with the darkest parts. So of course, if the light comes from above, can start adding some volume, so to speak. This is just a first draft, but it's very useful. And I came across this drawing style to draw some portraits. I once had to draw, and I didn't know how to draw portraits. And it's a very interesting way to explore the main shapes and to give some atmosphere. Yeah, here we go. The golden parts of the bottle.
And just to let you know, Tomasz, there has been a super nice comment over here from Ramir saying your art has fresh and immediate look to it. And I think Mary has also commented about that beautiful bright colors. Love this style. So yeah, we're
Thank you
definitely
so
leaning
much.
to that.
It's quite good to know that you share this enthusiasm, and this is a very good way to to have some memories, keep some memories about the good times to come. The New Year's Eve is a very good example, and it also teaches us something to do for the New Year's Eve. I am very curious to know if people in the chat would like to share their resolutions concerning drawing, of course, drawing resolutions in the new year. If the blank page is still a challenge to you, because it can be look frightening at the beginning, but then as we get used to, well, the drawing just starts to grow, and it's a very interesting part of drawing to manage these surprise effects. So now we are adding a stronger color. When we mix colors, it is important that the, 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 the later color is darker than the previous one, yeah, so that we have all the contrasts. And yeah, we can basically add color without changing color. I mean, the shape of the brush is is very important to tell the story. So although we can just see three colors here, we can see different geometries. So the drawing becomes an example of variety, of course. Then you can add some shadows for the reflection of the elements on the table. And yeah, it's one example of how we can make a very simple still life image with very few brushes. And well, we can also talk about how to frame the composition, how to choose the right elements. Now that we have homebound in most cases with the northern hemisphere winter at its best. It's a good time to keep to direct our attention to the things that are around us. So I'll just let it dry a little bit because any touch would spoil the pure colors that we got. And well, we can maybe
Yeah.
draw some conclusions.
Okay, cool. While we wait for that.
Just look at this color here. These colors are the red and the blue are overlaying, so it looks much darker than the blue outside. So we just three water brushes, three different colors. We created a lot of lots of effects. So it's this kind of color variety that is interesting in our drawings. It's like hearing George Benson when he's interviewed about music. That when he says that music is color, which is quite interesting. He likes chords. He likes to hear the guitar at its best with all its variety. And although it's just one instrument, and it's this kind of effects that I'm very fond of when I see drawings. But well, I will not stick to that discussion about what makes a good drawing. Just a cup of glass, a glass of water.
Cool. And while you wait for the paint to dry, maybe we've got an interesting question from Heidi, pretty much about the watercolor brush. I think some of them might be interested in how it works, how you fill it with water, how you use it. So yeah, maybe we could talk about that shortly.
Sure. So it is very simple. We buy it empty, of course, and then we can fill it with water and watercolor, or we can buy liquid watercolor that is already prepared, which I think is the case. But I keep trying different brands and inks because it's different to use for example, a very transparent cover that then receives a more opaque cover and a darker cover to create that transparency that we are very fond of in the drawings.
Can
This,
we? Sorry.
sure,
Oh, can we show that real quickly on the screen? The watercolor, the water brush. Sorry.
yes, yes. Here is
There you go.
one kind. Here is another kind, the brand. Both are travel veterans
Is
because,
this ink inside?
pardon?
Is this the ink inside, like the blue water brush?
This one has ink inside. Yes,
Oh, it
this
has.
is
Okay,
ink. Yeah.
I stand corrected then.
The other one is literally still works as a water brush because we see just water. And we see here two types. This one has one type of brush. It has the colors of the different inks I've been using. So this is the average time of main sketches, main drawings and watercolors. But it's very nice to it because it preserves the purity of the colors. So we can probably move on to the second example, in which I would
Perfect.
like to share some tips to draw more natural colors. But before ending this example, just to say how three colors can make an atmosphere. And that's what I was going to say, how creating an atmosphere and telling the story is a good way to appreciate the drawing. So there are many good ways to appreciate better drawings. Everyone can draw, everyone can sketch, but to appreciate a nicer drawing, I think that that's a parameter, so to speak. So sticking to the original lines, to the fit the blank page, we can focus on one point, and we're not sticking to the same point, which is the lowest part of the water. I'll try to do it without auxiliary lines, just pure observation. I'm using the shapes of the labels to correct the drawing, because these curves rarely are perfect at first sight. But to have this atmosphere in the drawing, it is better to stick to simple lines and simple shapes to simplify this a little bit. We do not need too much detail. Then the pomegranates with the crowns in it.
Very lovely and precise.
Thank you. The good thing about drawing pomegranates is that they're not perfectly round,
Oh,
so we can be freer in the shapes that we are using. So now we add the nice Etchr watercolors, the 24 pen set. And you know, I think that color is not an absolute thing. Color is context. So it's important to care about the relation between colors. I will start with the lighter colors. And then move on to the darkest ones.
excuse me. So, since you're using Etchr's watercolor paints, is this the same watercolor that is inside the water brush?
Well, now we have water.
Oh, just
So
the water then.
the
All
watercolor
right.
comes from, yeah, I can show the whole process.
Cool. All
Yeah.
right.
This is a very easy way to use watercolors in a travel ambience environment. So
Yeah, chat.
I never had one trouble using it because the water stays there. There are no leaks. It's very practical. And now what we can see about the brush strokes I'm adding is that we have the shapes of the colors, which is not exactly does not fill the whole contour. So we are respecting the, the blank areas still left there alive. But now there's a very important choice when we come to more realistic colors, to watercolor, to choose if we let it dry or if we add some colors where it's still drying up. And it is brush that still are brush strokes that still are there. If we add a second color, look, it bends together, and it's this kind of effect that you can explore to draw these shapes. Another thing I would suggest is to use warm and cold colors in different moments, not mix them. We can take advantage of this third tone of yellow, which is more, it has some red. We can take advantage of that, but not use strange colors like blue or I don't know, or purple. And these colors, although we can use more, we have more choice, of course, when we use this amazing watercolor pen. We do not need to stick to the real color. It is not Photoshop, and so we should just care about the relation between colors. So I can clean it up a little bit, and then when it's almost clean, go back to the colder colors. You can use this green for the glass. We use as the base. So you're not filling the whole shape, but giving the idea of 3D geometry, using the light and shadow.
We're loving the color palette over here. It's just super nice. We've got a couple of questions, but I think we could reserve that for the Q&A later. But yeah.
Okay. Whenever you want. We are having fun with this, and
Oh, I think we
I
could.
just don't notice the time
Oh, no
passing.
worries. We're still
Passing
like
time.
18 minutes away from your demo, so no worries. We've got a question from Mary A. I think I could ask it right now while you're still using watercolors. Um, do you use mostly ink, or do you mix ink with watercolor as well?
Well, I just use with this water brush. It's more difficult to control if the color, if the pigment uh, is more dense or if it's diluted in water.
Mm.
So the best way to do that is to press the tank of the water brush. It's a small water deposit that releases the water, but of course it is not uh, by far as accurate as a classic brush.
Brush. Yeah. I think
So
that
I'm going.
just
Sorry.
pretty much sums up what LMZ has commented over here, saying water control would be very difficult or challenging with water brushes. So we do agree it presents some challenges, but I think it takes practice too.
Definitely, but it's very good, as I mentioned first,
Mm,
to defeat the blank page, to start doing something, although it's not as accurate as other techniques. It has some advantages, though. As you can see in both examples, um, we have very precise limits of our brushes, which could be nice when it comes to scanning the drawing. I don't know what kind of scanners most uh, users use, but in most cases, it's very difficult to Photoshop the image, 3D image properly.
mhm.
So if we have nice uh, edges, it's much easier to control the blank page and to remove any impurity or any change of color that might be on the scan.
Awesome. And Tamaj, can we move just the paper just a little bit upwards? Because I think the shadows for the pomegranate. There you go.
Yes.
Thank you.
So now it's a never-ending process. So we can add more detail with more colors. We can add a third color here to add contrast and to say that, hey, it's touching the table and very dark in here. We can also add some textures from the pomegranate itself. But since we are focusing on light and shadow, textures, I mean, changes of color don't really matter. The most important thing is to have all the blank parts kept as they are. To give an idea that it's much clearer here. Although we know that we are surrounded by gradients, so it's impossible to be accurate at first sight. So in case of doubts, just leave it white to say that it's much lighter than the darker parts. I can add some details here.
A great question over here from Bobby. Do you rinse the water brush tip between the watercolors, or how do you deal with? Yeah.
Yes, in this case, I'm using an auxiliary piece of paper,
Oh,
which has all the excess of water.
I see. So you press the water brush to clean it, so the water
Exactly.
comes out. Okay,
We need loads of water. That's one of the things.
that's unique. Yeah.
Uh, so it's before this demo, I made sure that it was filled, and there was no risk of running out of.
Hmm.
And then here it is. Uh, we can do a third try.
Yeah.
While it dries up. And we can focus on the shapes and the line work.
I can't imagine how exciting the 90-minute class would be just by you showing these simple elements. So, you mentioned you were going to be teaching them how to paint Taj Mahal.
Yes, it's much more
Cool.
complex at first sight, but if we get things right in terms of know what really matters to define the building, and a hint, it does not have to be perspective. People do not have to know about perspective so that it tells a story. Then it's a very good start to draw street scenes and urban landscapes above all.
That's awesome. And if you are enjoying what you're learning or seeing today from Tomas, you could go ahead and I've dropped the link in his 90-minute class. So that's, of course, 90 minutes, and it's going to be a step by step process. It's going to be longer, and it's an intimate class. You could go ahead and have access to the recording if you've missed the exact time or date, if you can't make it. So you could watch it all over and over again. So yeah, I think we're
Thank you.
down to our last sketch, Tomasz. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, cool. And we're
that's
almost done.
done.
If you guys are following along, go ahead and tag Tomasz. I'll go ahead and drop his socials in a chat. So yeah, hope you guys are enjoying.
Thank you. So in this third try, we are playing with the line. We didn't even add the end of the label because it's lighter. And we can do the same with the pomegranate, for example. We do not have to finish everything. It's not even symmetric. So it's a very cool sketch. We can even overlay. We can make the pomegranates overlay each other because it's about overlaying colors to create different effects. So we can focus on one pomegranate. So in this one, you start drawing the darkest parts. And as you can see, the brush does not touch the lines. It does not have to. It can do, but it does not have to.
That makes it
Because if we
more
take,
interesting.
thank you. If we notice, the although the line comes from a table lamp that is over there, part of the pomegranate reflects the remaining light coming from the table, although it throws a shadow, a nice shadow. So the idea is to make it very simple so that anyone could start defeating the white page. But I'm very curious to know if people around still struggle with the blank page, as we are going to struggle with the challenges the new year ahead, but also to have lots of great moments and to have some fun in the meantime. The other thing is to have a balance between being loose enough so that the brush does not follow the stroke. It can be more original, but also to be patient enough to cover well all the shape is going to cover. To say, hey, we did not forget this label, we did not forget this crown, because it adds richness to the drawing.
So, Heidi is noticing how strong and clean you are with your line work. Does being an architect help with your, exercising these skills, or do you have any other trainings?
That is a very, very good question, because we are trained with about perspective. We are mostly obsessed about perspective, and when we try to do some illustration, we try to get rid of that. But it's nice to have some basis, of course, shed a light on perspective. The thing I would insist on is the proportion between elements. So those shapes that were composing the bottle. I can show some examples about studies that could be very useful
Oh
to
yeah.
start practicing. Yeah. The things about proportion. So as we can see here, one try for the sketch that we have. Although the bottle may change a little bit, but it should be recognizable. And we are choosing the right bottle as well to decide whether we see 4 squares or just 3 squares. And it's important to decide that here we are adding some brush stroke to add some light, and it adds a lot of life if we compare when drawing with the other. Here we see everything bidimensional, and here we have that extra life. And yeah, it's another type of bottle of wine, which is 3/4 feet height at the maximum width, and then the bottleneck at the end to be recognizable. So we have different studies. The more we practice, the more secure our line work will be. And it's completely okay to start drawing circles with squares, because fruits can be described in a square. That's how it is. Then we get the process of adding more and more detail. But to tell a story, we need no more than some brushes. So we can get back to this example.
Yeah, definitely.
So now colors will not mix up because it's everything is dry. So we can start adding colors from sketch. And we can move on to the oranges. One of the things that take more and more time is to distinguish between changing color and adding a different tone, like darker and lighter color. It's much important to focus on that. This is clearly darker than the yellow we have been using so far. And we can be used to add some detail in the crown. So yeah, hope that we have defeated the blank page so far. It's much easier to start with full shapes, so that just like the other drawing of a streetscape, of a city landscape, you do not have to be around an excuse to finish the drawing, like a chimney or a tower or the end of this building. It's much easier if we draw a single bottle or pieces of fruit, of course, because drawing can end up when our story ends, which is in this case could be the reflex on the table, which has not a natural color because the table, as you can see, is brown. But it doesn't matter as long as the relation between colors and tones is about right. So I will rinse the water brush. As you can see, half the water has gone. One of the things I get fun with is when I'm traveling to use the water we find in the place. So if we are drawing scenes from a river or a waterfall, why not picking up water there and using that water? I think it also adds to the story we want to tell.
Well, that's super awesome. Like one way to, like you mentioned, pretty much tell a story.
Thank you. And of course, it's just the beginning. It's a never-ending story. One of the things that I got used to is to, if I'm doing like a sketch of a dinner scene in the New Year's Eve, try to make it, of course, faster because I want to enjoy New Year's Eve and I want to miss the last countdown to fully embrace the new year. So now we can play with the colors. We can also do some tests. We don't have to use the green of the glass. We can stick to the colors of the room where we are sitting. So the drawing can relate to an atmosphere, to that story. So that the relation between tones and colors is, as I've said, about right and accurately right. So since the white is coming from the right, we can add some brushes in the left, not touching the end, because some white is also reflecting, is coming from over there. And darkening in the middle helps a lot. Now we are dealing with some reflections from the, oops, sorry, I don't want the plain green. I want more atmospheric colors. Yeah, the purple, which does not look purple because of the context, and which is very funny. As the Gestalt school used to say in the beginning of the previous century, the reading of the shapes and colors depends on the relation between them. So, for instance, lighter shapes should move forward onto the darkest shapes. It has also been like that. It's the human eye how it behaves. Yeah, we don't want to make it too dark so that we have space to add color afterwards for enhanced contrast.
This is turning out super lovely, and it's a different palette compared to the first two sketches that we made.
Then I can
So,
show compared
yeah.
to
No,
show
no
that
worries. Yeah.
we have
So,
many ways of telling a
to
story.
definitely, Tomas is serving us so many things on our plate. So you have plenty of ideas, um, what to sketch or how to sketch during New Year's Eve.
And we have to wait so that this brush is easier to work and we get a nice limit for the label. Extra extra dark here for the table as well. You see, the pomegranate here is like we have to guess it, but we see it, the one that is missing.
Yeah.
Okay, should take more time. It deserves a year and a half. Sorry, 90 minutes
Yeah,
in the
no worries.
workshop.
And we're almost done since we're coming to a close. Um, if you love what you are seeing today, and if you're interested to sign up for Tomas's or join Tomas's 90-minute class, I'll go ahead and drop a couple of links later on. And if you loved how Tomas has shown you how to do this free lose style to do or to tell a story, go ahead and let us know in our feedback survey. And since it's our last live demo, maybe you could go ahead and shoot us a message for Etchr, for Tomas, anything really for the Etchr participants so that we could go ahead. We'd love to know what you think. So, yeah. Um, so are
Thank you.
we ready to show some of the works earlier?
Yes, sure. We can compare them. You can see how this bottle from the first try looks much slimmer
Mm-hmm.
than the last one,
Oh yeah.
but it also tells a story. So it was just for the beginning. It seems to be more accurate in this case because of the auxiliary lines, which of course are very advantageous. And then you can see some of the tries. The second one with more shy colors,
That's a different feel.
totally different.
Yeah.
And the third one, it is more passionate It looks like a warmer light. Uh, so it feels that as if we were in a different room. But the most important thing is that it feels that we really are in a room. I mean, in a certain atmosphere, and that the drawing conveys that atmosphere.
Definitely. Yeah. So, I think some people have specific preferences. So, Ren here says, love the color palette of the last one, but they're all awesome. So, we're kind of like picking one way to tell a story, I guess. So, I think we could bring our faces back now so that you guys could see um, our beautiful faces aside from our beautiful piece over here. So, wow, that was such a beautiful demonstration. Thank you so much, Tomas. And thank you, everybody, for being so enthusiastic and energetic in the chat. I've just have like a pretty interesting comment from Susan over here earlier. I'll just have to go back to that. And while I do, if you have any questions, just final questions, go ahead and drop them in a chat for Tomas. And there you go. Susan says, more art for 2022 because you were talking about New Year's resolution because New Year's coming up, everybody. So I know you're pretty much excited. So, um, any final words, Tomash, before we sadly have to end this class in this last session? Yep.
I was preparing the next sketch because
Oh,
it's a
sorry. Yeah.
never-ending journey.
Cool.
But what I can say is that, as we can see in these versions, there's no right and wrong in terms of drawing, but we can tell a story, and hopefully we'll tell many stories in the year to come, and defeat the blank page using these tools that can be helpful to add color and light at once and have more and more confidence on the line work to define those shapes. So let's hope we are going to have a great year ahead with more and more sketches, and that we get used to sketching in the daily life, not just in a closed room, but when we are together, why not? Why not to sketch with our friends um, at any age? It's never too late to learn and to have more practice.
Definitely. And what a great way to end this class and to end this live class for this year. And again, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful new year. As Heidi has mentioned, inspired to do more work. That's super great. Um, I wish everybody would include this as part of their New Year's resolution. Again, please tell us how we did today. Follow the link in the chat. I've dropped the bulk link as well as Tomas' Instagram. So if you followed along today, go ahead and tag him or post that on our Facebook group. And lastly, the 90-minute class link is already in our chat. And Tomas, go ahead. You want to show this work?
It's well, an auxiliary piece of paper. When I was rinsing the water brush, and we can see the most difficult thing to control in this kind of approach. We have too much water. It takes time. Drawing is not an easy task to do at whatever time we have, but it's quite rewarding. In the end, yeah, we can see all these versions side by side, so that
Oh,
we feel
cool.
if we
Thank
have
you so
time.
much. Yeah. You could go ahead and put them side by side. Wow, these are lovely versions. And again, you'll see more of these as you join the 90-minute class. So go ahead and join Tomash next year. All right. We are loving how this is placed all together side by side.
Yes.
All right.
So now,
And go ahead.
thank you.
All right.
I
And I
could
think we're
use.
done. So I think we could go ahead.
No, no. Thank you so much
Oh,
um, for this.
can we move the picture just to the center? Awesome. All right. And I think We are done. Thank you so much, Tomasz. I hope you had a lovely time with your demonstration. And thank you, everybody. And until next time, make more art and a happy, very prosperous, creative new year to you, llamas. And see you next year. Bye for now.
Bye bye.